Brin used to think saving money was something other people did, not warehouse workers living paycheck to paycheck. She was 31, sitting in the break room of a logistics warehouse outside Tacoma, holding a crumpled receipt for $4.27, a small iced coffee and a granola bar. At $17 an hour, that was a quarter of her shift. The break room smelled like burnt coffee and microwaved tuna while a radio mumbled a traffic report nobody was listening to. She had been doing this for 7 years, get paid Friday, cover rent, make the car payment, hit the minimum. Whatever pennies were left went to groceries, and the rest went to small comforts that made the week bearable. A coffee on the way in, a delivery dinner on the way home, a shirt that made her feel like herself. By Tuesday, her account was usually running on fumes, but she was too exhausted to really care anymore. Her wife Marla was a decent woman with a back that hurt from roofing and a laugh that came 2 seconds late now. They had talked about kids once, the way people talk about traveling to Iceland, a thing for a life they'd have later. They shared a tight budget, constant stress, and a beat-up couch they'd hauled off the curb together. That Tuesday, on her way out, Josie stopped her by the time clock, the maintenance worker who said good morning to the floor. "Long day on your face today, Brin," Josie said, thermos smelling of real cinnamon in her hand. "I've been doing this 7 years," Brin said. "I should be further along than I am by now." Josie looked at her a beat too long, then said something Brin would remember on the drive home. "You don't have to save a lot, kid. Just 1 hour. Take 1 hour of your pay every working day. Put it somewhere your hands can't reach. Most folks think they need a budget. You just need an hour." Brin laughed for real. "Josie, an hour of my pay is $17. How much of your day did rent eat? That app you pay $6 for and never open. Your boss got most of your hours. Keep one for yourself. That's the whole trick," Josie said, leaning on her mop handle, and Brin walked past her without answering. But she didn't forget either. And that Friday, when her paycheck cleared, she opened her bank app at the picnic table. During her 15, she clicked through 3 screens until she found the option to open a separate savings account. She typed the name carefully, Freedom Hours. It looked silly, like a Pinterest infographic, but she didn't change it. The first week was harder than expected. She planned $17 a day, but moved it all at once instead. She multiplied 17 by 5 working days, $85. The price of 2 used tires, or half a week's groceries. She opened the app, tapped confirm, and watched the lump sum walk out of checking into a place she wouldn't touch. By the 3rd week, she'd nearly canceled the whole thing, from hovering over the transfer screen asking, what was the point? The water heater could die tomorrow. And $85 wasn't going to fix the quiet tension with Marla lately. But she remembered Josie looking at her like she was capable of something, so she set up an automatic weekly transfer. By the end of month 1, she had $374 in freedom hours. Not life-changing, not even rent money. But she found herself walking past the iced coffee window in the morning, not because she couldn't afford it anymore. She suddenly understood what it was costing her. It was just math, and she didn't know why she'd feared it. In month 2, Marla found the bank statement, folded in the kitchen drawer, and asked what the new account was. "We can't afford a little thing, Brin," she said. "I can't afford another year like the last one either," Brin answered. Marla didn't fight her, didn't help either, just looked at her the way you look at someone who took up running. A week later, Brin came home from a closing shift to a small thermos of coffee waiting on the counter. Neither of them mentioned it, but the next morning it was full again. And 3 weeks later it kept happening. She realized she hadn't bought gas station coffee in almost a month, and Marla had quietly become the one covering it. In months 3 and 4, she added a small game. Whenever she felt the itch to swipe her card, she'd check the balance. She'd ask if the thing was worth 1 more hour on the warehouse floor. Sometimes yes, mostly no. The cinnamon rolls she walked past every morning stopped smelling like comfort and started smelling like a tax instead. The wireless headphones sitting in her cart for a month went back to the shelf, unbought without much regret. The 3rd pair of work boots stayed unbought too, since the old ones still had a few more miles left. By month 6, the account held just over $2,200, growing slowly but steadily every single week. Josie asked about it casually one day, the way she asked about weekends, and Brin turned her phone screen toward her. Josie just nodded, scraping a boot scuff off the tile with her shoe. Quiet and unimpressed on purpose. "Don't tell anyone what you're doing," she said. "Keep it to yourself, or they'll find a reason to need it." Brin listened and didn't argue. And around month 9, for the first time in years, something small shifted inside her. She stopped flinching when the card reader paused at the gas pump. That small dread finally starting to loosen. She noticed she had started humming on her way to the car. Small half-remembered radio songs under her breath. Checking still hovered around $40 the day before payday. And the car still rattled at every red light. But there was now a number growing somewhere her hand couldn't reach. A number that belonged only to her. It is hard to describe what it does to a person to have something exist in the world because of them. In month 11, the alternator on the car gave out on the freeway, and the shop wanted $640. Marla called on her break, voice tight, already running through a list of credit cards in her head. Brin closed her eyes in the parking lot, breathed in diesel and cold rain, and said, "I've got it." Marla went quiet so long Brin thought the call had dropped. Then asked, "You got $640. Just like that. That night Marla sat at the kitchen table staring at the banking app still open on Brin's phone screen. She had assumed it amounted to pocket change, and now she rubbed her face, eyes bloodshot from the roofing tar. "I'm sorry," Marla said, her voice thick. "I thought you were just saving quarters. I didn't know you'd built all this." Brin didn't say much, just made her a cup of cinnamon tea the way Josie made hers, and sat with her. Marla reached across the table, left calluses catching against Brin's skin, and made her a quiet promise. "Starting next week," she said, "I'm putting in an hour of mine too. You're not carrying this house alone anymore. Year 1 closed at $4,488. And Brin just checked her balance and felt a strange relief. She didn't blow it on a trip or new furniture. She just set her alarm for the next shift like always. She kept going to work the way most people keep going to work. Because Tuesday came and then Wednesday. By month 18, freedom hours had grown to almost $6,800. And the warehouse stopped feeling like a trap. It was just a place she went now to get her money. Though she never once thought about actually quitting. Quitting wasn't the point. But knowing she had enough to walk out if things got bad made the vest more tolerable. She used some of the money for a 2-week inventory software certification course, costing $840, paid in cash. She did the homework at the kitchen table while Marla watched Baseball Low, trying to sound out the acronyms over her shoulder. 3 months after finishing, she applied for a transfer to the inventory control team, only for dollars an hour more. It didn't make her rich, but she was off the night rotation and her feet no longer ached from concrete floors. With a raise and Marla chipping in, the tight feeling in Brin's stomach finally started to go away for good. She adjusted her automatic transfer to 2 hours a day instead of 1. And that was the whole change she made. Josie retired that spring, and on her last day, Brin brought her a thermos she'd been eyeing at the outdoor store. Stainless steel, heavy-duty, built for dropping on concrete. She handed it over and said, "Cinnamon's in the side pocket." Josie looked at her for a long time in the buzzing parking lot. A car alarm going off 2 rows over. Nobody moved. "You bought back your hours, kid," Josie finally said. And that was the only speech either of them needed. Brin drove home the long way that night, past all the spots where she used to bleed money without thinking. The radio was on low, and she was humming again. Small half-remembered songs filling the quiet of the car. She sat in the driveway for a minute, with the heater running and her hands resting on the wheel. She let the night be quiet around her before finally going inside, where Marla had coffee waiting on the couch. She sat and drank it, the couch still smelling very faintly of someone else's dog. And for once that felt like home. 7 years of Fridays that used to feel like treading water had quietly become something she was actually building. It never started with a plan or a spreadsheet. It started with 1 hour, one number she couldn't touch. The warehouse never changed. The shifts never got shorter. But the fear underneath all of it finally did. That is the whole story hiding inside an hour a day. Not a windfall. Not luck. Just one steady habit. The gap between Brin at 31 and Brin 18 months later was never about how much she earned. It was about the 1 hour a day she decided her hands were not allowed to reach anymore. If a warehouse worker holding a crumpled $4 receipt can build almost $7,000 in a year and a half, Then the excuse that there is nothing left over at the end of the month rarely holds up. Under real scrutiny, somewhere in your own week there is an hour hiding, small enough to overlook and large enough to matter. Maybe it is a subscription, maybe it is a coffee, maybe it is just $17 nobody would miss. Put it somewhere your hands can't reach, the way Josie said it, and let a year quietly answer the question. Brin never called herself disciplined. She just called it freedom hours and let the name do some of the work. Somewhere out there, a version of you is still holding a receipt and wondering if this is just how it is. It doesn't have to be. And it never took more than 1 hour a day to start finding out otherwise. Tell me in the comments if you've ever found your own version of an hour hiding in your week somewhere. And if you start one today, come back in a year and tell me what your own freedom hours became.